Hi there, my name is Brianna from the Yorba Linda Water District, and today we're going to be providing you answers with some frequently asked questions that we've been receiving regarding our rate study. And today we have our very own finance manager, Christine McElreevy. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So Christine, the district has issued our Prop 218 notices and are now in the hands of customers. Can you explain a little bit more about the costs that are associated with these rates?
Yes, of course. So there's several factors that go into our rates. We have our operations and maintenance costs. So those are the costs that we have to maintain the system. There are day-to-day costs. So that includes our water costs. So the cost to purchase water, we purchase water from Metropolitan Water District, as well as we pump water from the groundwater basin. But there is a cost associated with that, both for the water and for energy to pump that water to our customers. In addition to that, we have personnel costs, which we have 82 employees on staff, which interestingly enough is the same number of employees that we had over 10 years ago. So we have not grown in number of employees over the last 10 years, but that is one of our costs. And we also have supplies and services costs, which that includes, our maintenance, it includes our headquarters, it includes a lot of different costs, meter costs, repair costs, those kinds of things. But in addition to our operations and maintenance costs, we also have our capital improvement projects. So capital improvement projects, those are the projects that we have to do to maintain our facilities, which are very important. And our agency has been around quite a few years. So we have infrastructure that can be quite old and we need to replace, we need to maintain that infrastructure. So a lot of that infrastructure our customers can't see because most of it is underground, but some of it is pretty old, and we do have a plan in place to replace that infrastructure, and that's a huge part of our costs. And then we also have regulatory compliance costs mandated from the state of California, such as water quality testing, different types of things to make sure that the water we deliver to customers is clean and reliable. And then we have our debt costs. So we do have debt on our books, and we have to pay annual payments for that debt for both principal and interest.
Yeah. Thank you for answering my question. You mentioned capital improvement projects. Is there a reason why the district isn't issuing another bond to pay for those capital improvement projects to avoid raising rates?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. Even if the district were to issue a bond to pay for its capital improvement projects, we would still need a rate increase to cover the other costs that I mentioned that we still have. We still have operating and maintenance costs that we would have to cover, as well as other costs. So, but the reason why the district is not issuing debt for this particular rate period over the next 5 years to cover its capital projects, and why we are instead funding those capital projects through the rates, is because we already have over $50 million in debt on our balance sheet. Over the last 2 rate study cycles, the district has issued debt. So we have 2 outstanding bonds currently in our balance sheet, but we also there's a cost to issuing that debt, so we also have to pay interest on that debt. So the current debt that we have over just under 30 years, we will have paid $30 million plus in interest. So if we were to issue more debt, it would just make the cost of those projects that much more expensive, because not only are you paying the debt, you're also paying the interest on that debt over a 30-year period. If we were to continue issuing debt with every rate cycle, we would end up with a lot of debt on our books, and that wouldn't be good for future generations. We don't want to leave our future generations with a large liability to have to cover, because they would eventually have to pay for that.
So since we're not going to be issuing any bonds to cover our capital improvement projects, can you explain a little bit more about how the 7.5 proposed water rate and the 9.5 proposed sewer rate, how those are going to impact our customers?
Yes, of course. So in the Proposition 218 notice, all of our customers received in the mail, there are proposed rate schedules in there. We had an independent consultant do the rate study. This process has been going on for just under a year now, where they come and they look at all of our costs and what revenue we need in order to be able to cover those costs over the next 5 years. Those are projected amounts based on what we project our expenses to be over a 5-year period, including our capital projects. But it's not an automatic increase. So different things happen. Things can change either up or down every year. So every year we do bring back a new budget for our board, and we also update our financial plan, as well as our capital CIP schedule, which goes over a 5-year period. So as part of that process, in the spring of every year, when we bring the budget and the updated financial plan, the board will decide at that point whether to increase rates, reduce them, or they can choose whether to increase rates to the maximum of the 7.5% and 9.5%, or they can choose to increase at a lower rate depending on what circumstances are in play at that time.
Got it. That's a lot of good information. Thank you. So just to clarify, the 7.5% increase is not for the first year. That's for the whole study. Is the first year separate from the rest of the 4 years of the study? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's two components when an agency does a rate study. The first component is they look at our financial plan, our costs, and see how much revenue we need to cover those costs. So the 7.5% and 9.5% for sewer, those are the overall rate increases. So overall, if you were to add all of our customers' rates together, it would be a 7.5% increase each of the 5 years for water. But there's a second component to rate studies where it's also a Proposition 218 requirement, so a legal requirement that when we do a rate study, we also have to look at the cost of service. So what that means is we have to look at the budget, we have to look at customer data, and our independent consultant analyzes how our customers are currently using our system. And then they allocate the cost based on the way customers are using the system. So because of that cost of service component, that very first year, so year 1 of the 5 years, is the year that that cost of service component is implemented. So while that first year there's an overall increase of 7.5%, for example, for water, it might look different depending on the type of customer you are, or the size of meter that you have, or how much water you use. So you might not see 7.5% exactly in that first year. You might see a lower increase depending on your water usage, or depending on what size meter you have. Or you might see a slightly higher increase, also dependent upon that. But if you were to add all of the revenue together for that first year, it would be 7.5%. But that's only in the first year. If you look at years 2 through 5, those you will see 7.5 or 9.5. Okay. It's just that first year where we have to, because of Proposition 218, we have to adjust based on the way the system is being used.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. Where can customers find out more information about our rate study?
They can go to our website. We have a website that has a lot of information on it. It's www.ylwd.com/rate study. So everything that we just talked about, the rate study, the 2026 rate study, is on there, as well as a copy of the notice that was sent out, and a lot of other information. But we also have a bill estimator tool. So if our customers want to see what maybe their bill might be next year, if the rates are approved by the board, they can go on the website and put in their information.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.